All right, ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, we're here with Colt Cabana here on PWInsider.com. Colt, the wrestling world has been feeling for you lately. Yeah.
Do I talk to you, or do I talk to you? Or?
I don't know. Just look forward.
It's all experimental here.
It's
okay,
guerrilla filmmaking,
yeah.
my friend. We're here at Colt Cabana. Right now, as we record this, you're out of the ring.
Yeah.
Give everyone the breakdown. What happened with your finger, and how crazy was that situation?
Real scoop. Here it is. It's like this right now, but it's bandaged up. Before, it was a giant hole in it. And what happened was, it just got infected, and I guess I can assume that maybe comes with, dirty rings, or you never know.
Now, do you think that what it was? Was it a staph infection? Did they figure it out?
It was a strep infection.
Really?
A lot of people think strep throat, but it's different variations of strep. I'm not a doctor, although my Twitter handle used to be Dr. Colt Cabana.
See, karma.
And I was kind of trained by Dr. Tom Pritchard for a little bit in developmental, but at the end of the day, I'm not a doctor, so that's what they said, strep. And, it just got in there and just did me in. I've been out for a month now. But by the time this airs, I'll be back in the ring. You know me, going at it.
Now, how shocked were you? Like, this came on pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, it took, within a day, or, I don't know. I was in the most pain I've ever been in my life. And God knows the stuff that I do to my body in the wrestling ring and whatnot. But, I just felt throbbing. My finger had a heartbeat, and, it was pulsating. And I was like, I got to go to the emergency room. And I'm one who I'd never go to the emergency room for anything. But it got to the point where I was like, I got to make sure this doesn't screw me up. And they said, a couple more days, and the finger would have been gone. A couple more days after that, the arm might have been gone. So
really? That's serious, huh?
I've been pumped with antibiotics. Had an IV in me. They took that out and finally put me on regular oral antibiotics. And now it's kind of on the end days here. And we're getting through this weird, bizarre moment of my career. And you can see here I've got a commemorative T-shirt, Save Colt's Feet.
There you go.
Which was trending worldwide on Twitter.
I was going to say, so, for a guy who lives and breathes pro wrestling all the time, what do you do when you're trapped in a hospital? All right, we are back here with Colt Cabana. How are you doing, sir?
I've heard that one before, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. So, I got to ask you, given how busy you've been with pro wrestling, with the finger stuff, was it hard for you to slow down? Because it seems like every independent you could find, there was Colt Cabana.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, I had to unbook a trip to Hawaii, which I've never wrestled in. I had to unbook a tour of Europe and a big show in North Carolina. There's a couple of really cool places that I wanted to go, and fans that were waiting to see me. I've been plugging these places for months now. So it was hard for me, and again, it's all, I love wrestling. I love being involved. I love being out there. I love going to the shows. So when this sidelines me, a lot of Netflix, a lot of HBO Go, and a lot of YouTube. I guess that's what fulfilled my time, because I was stuck in California for 2 weeks. And all the people had orders at my website and stuff. I couldn't fulfill those, so I was just literally stuck in a hospital, and then in my aunt's house for a week. A hospital 1 week, aunt's house the other week, just trying to fill the time, I guess.
So when you finally got on the plane to go home to Chicago, you must have been like, oh, thank gosh.
And they told me that I was going to have to be there. They're like, can you stay here for 4 weeks? I was like, absolutely not. I was like 1 week at the most, and so luckily I wasn't out there for a month. So when I was back in Chicago, amazing.
Right.
Not the greatest day. I was going to say the greatest day ever, but not really.
So probably not the best way to kick off the beginning of the end of the year for you. But as we lead into 2013, what's the goal? You kind of have really gotten the Colt Cabana brand over to the point where, you could make the argument you're like the 2013 version of Bruiser Brody in terms of, being that independent guy who's making a living, doing your own thing, calling your own shots. There's always been, a lot of groundswell, let's get Colt back to WWE, let's get him back on national TV. Are you at the point now where it doesn't even matter to you?
I always say, imagine if Bruiser Brody had a Twitter. That's kind of if he knew how to use PayPal, Bruiser Brody. But because I'm so, I'm nothing, look at me, I am nothing like Bruiser Brody or Abdullah the Butcher, but the idea, the concept, the romance behind what those guys did by themselves, I guess, I really take to heart and something I believe in, especially those were guys, mainstream wrestling wanted nothing to do with them almost, it seems like, and they made the most out of it, and that's where my heart's at for the most part. So, couple of years ago, if a mainstream wrestling promotion came knocking at my door, I would have dropped everything and said, yes, please, here's my contract. I don't care what it's paid in or whatever. And now it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I'll give it a look, but I got to make sure that my stuff is still able to be done, and that's very powerful for me. That's important to me. And again, like I realize I can't put my future in somebody else's hands because I don't think they're going to know what to do with it. And that's been proven a couple of times. So now it's in my hands, and I like that feeling.
How do you're kind of like the pioneer when it comes to like using the social media and stuff to brand yourself when it comes to pro wrestling with the podcast and other stuff. Are you surprised more guys aren't taking the initiative to do the same thing that you do, or is it good for you because they're not?
Well, I mean, yes, it's good. It's nice for me.
Because in wrestling, it is all about that. It is all about you.
Right. It's cutthroat. And but another thing I have in my back end is I've really branded myself as not only with social media and the internet or whatnot, but it's also comedy, and very passionate about comedy and wrestling and mixing the two together. So whereas some other people are just doing wrestling and they're trying to figure out how to get their niche in just wrestling, where I've done is I've used social media and all these other integrations and mediums and forums to use my brand of comedy and I guess, I don't know, my humor. And I think that's gone a long way. I think that's mainly what's helped everything come together. Because, for so long, the fans, there's always been this weird, quirky, funny humor that goes with, I guess, the internet wrestling fan. And, to show them that I don't take myself too serious and I'm happy to make fun, with, not necessarily of wrestling, but with wrestling, with the fans, I think that's taken it a long way.
Right. So, you always are unveiling new projects. You had Art of Wrestling Animated. Creative Has Nothing For You, which I'm sure endeared you to WWE. Anything new that you and Marty DeRosa are working on, or yourself working on that you might want to hint at?
Well, we're going to do another live $5 wrestling pay-per-view.
Right, WrestleMania weekend, right?
Yeah, February 1st.
February 1st.
Just signed the papers today. So we're going to do that on iPay-per-view at highspots.com or highspots.tv. Yes. Highspots.tv.
And where is the show going to be taped?
Clarksville, Indiana.
So you're going right back to Clarksville.
Charlestown, Indiana. That's our go-to there. We got a good strong group down there. And so yeah, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing, of course, the live $5 wrestling show at WrestleMania. Also, Marty and I think eventually Creative Has Nothing For You is going to run its course, and then we're going to. I came up with a concept that I'm still trying to work out a little bit, but it's based off of awful wrestling promos, and Marty and I are going to work on a web series, a weekly web series for that. So again, I mean, we're always thinking, we have the $5 wrestling movies. You know about that?
I saw the No Holds Barred one.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, and Suburban Commando just came out. So
you're going through the entire Hulk Hogan repertoire.
There's so many. The Chaperone,
Mr. Nanny.
Yeah, Ready to Rumble.
Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So where you can watch the movie with Marty and I, and we kind of poke fun in our own ways with these wrestling movies. So.
Pulling yourself ever closer to the Mystery Science Theater crossover.
Yeah, well, obviously the $5 wrestling had a lot to do with the Mystery Science 2000, and so I always say so did Cheap Seats with the Sklar Brothers on ESPN Classic. It's a big inspiration too. So.
Well, then you definitely just ripped them off because they used to do old UWF episodes.
Yeah, there was the wrestling one, which I think was wonderful. And I recently did their podcast. They have a great podcast on the Earwolf Network. It's called the Scarborough Country. So you can find that on iTunes. And we talk a lot of wrestling and comedy and sports, so it's fun.
So, I've actually seen you, literally, and I wish we had video footage of this, sell the shirt off your back once at a Chikara show.
A couple times.
So what's the strangest, we'll close it out with this. What's the strangest gimmick sale you've been able to make?
Oh. So I've sold my dirty ass ring towels before, and understand this, my ring towel isn't like a fresh, clean ring towel because I'm a dirty kid in general. So it's been in my bag.
So you're like Pigpen.
Shows, yes, and it's stewing up. And someone's like, I want you, and I was like, I'll sell it to you if you want it. They're like, please. I was like, all right, I kind of feel bad for you, but horribly dirty towel. And then when I'm in Japan, they love buying my gear. And so I'll sell my gear away, any day of the week. So I don't need it. And if someone, Rob Van Dam said something recently, I think on Jay Moore's podcast. He said, people are like, oh, Rob, you're selling your stuff on eBay. What do you have no money? He's like, no, I know somebody would love this, and like right now I don't need it. That's what he said. So like, why not give a fan a great piece of memorabilia? And I'm kind of the same way. It's like, it's just gonna sit in my studio apartment, so I might as well dish it out to somebody who really wants it. So I have no problem doing that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So if anybody needs a dirty towel, call Colt. Check out WeLoveColt.com, and as you can see, the sign behind you, Colt Cabana does indeed accept credit cards.
So the important part here is, here's the lesson. Is
Okay.
If this wasn't here, I would just be Virgil. You know, it just says
Yeah.
Colt Cabana. But if I put this, now it's like a business move.
Right.
So that was the marketing strategy.
Is that like your worst fears, that one day you'll be like one of those empty photos of Virgil?
I was doing that at 25, you know. Like, I mean, luckily the podcast has caught on and people, you know, but still, there's those times where you're just sitting here, you're like, this is depressing. But I don't know. I guess you got to move forward.
All right. Well, Colt, as always, thank you for your time, and everyone check out WeLoveColt.com.